everybody? Artistry Finesse with you. Wednesday night, the trade deadline is passed. You're just listening to the smooth stylings of DJ App One, good friend of the blog, who's going to be joining us in a few minutes to talk about the deadline. And Finesse, I think this is the first trade deadline that I can remember where the takeaway really is what the Penguins didn't do rather than what they did.
Well, just a real quick shout out for that theme music. I think it's appropriate as we, set up for the second half of the season that we just try to change things up on our end too. Quick, just freshen up real fast.
Things can get stale.
They can. I think, my initial reaction was I was a little disappointed by the Pens not doing more. But as I've thought more about it and kind of looked a little closer at some of the other trades, I think we did a reasonable job. The only thing I would say is I would like to have gotten one more guy. Because as solid as the two guys are that we got, I think we still need more.
Yeah, they're okay, right? They seem to be perfectly serviceable players. I was just watching NHL Network break down the trades, and I don't know if you watch this at all, but it never ceases to amaze me. They have nothing bad to say about anybody. They're talking about Marcel Gottsch and Lee Stepniak like they're these incredible assets. I think one guy described Marcel Gottsch as an excellent offensive-defensive hybrid. I don't even know what are you supposed to take away from that?
I think he just patrols the neutral zone, maybe.
He's between the blue lines.
Yeah, he's offense and defense. Never committing to one or the other.
I think that they're perfectly serviceable players, but if you're trying to get me excited about these guys, it's not going to work. I think that their upgrades on the third line didn't take much to do that, and I think we recognize that was a priority. But I'm with you. I think that there are enough holes in this lineup that you really need quantity more than anything else.
Does it seem to you that the Marcel Gottsch move was a setup to trading Sutter, and then whatever move was in play for Sutter just never happened?
Well, it certainly appears that way because, if you're not trading Sutter, I'm not sure why you need another center. I know that they like guys that are versatile, but I think the obvious need if you're not trading Sutter, is to get better wings for the bottom two lines and, conceivably for Sid's right wing.
Well, that's the thing. Stempniak probably would get a look with Crosby, right, on the right side.
Oh, absolutely. The guys that we have available to Sid right now, Gibbons, he's been, not terribly detrimental to have in there right now on Sid and Kunitz's wing, but he has no pedigree whatsoever. He has no playoff history. You don't know if a little guy like that is going to wilt in the playoffs. So I think you need insurance there on that wing. At least somebody that you can start on the third line and move up if need be. And Stepniak seems like, he'll be fine. But the guy, he hasn't scored more than 19 goals since 2006. So, he has the same resume over the last 5 years as Tyler Kennedy, basically.
Right. So maybe we just got another Tyler Kennedy. We haven't as crazy it sounds to say, we haven't ever replaced Tyler Kennedy since he left.
Oh, I know.
We've replaced Tyler Kennedy. We've replaced Tyler with Taylor. And somehow
we're a better team than we were yesterday.
I agree. And that's what's important.
It is important, but, my question is, and I thought this after the deadline when I felt the first wave of disappointment that we hadn't made more of a splash move, or if not a splash move, like just more moves to get stronger up and down the lineup. I thought to myself, this has been Shiro's worst year from start to finish. And I just think you have to wonder, did we get so transparently fixated on Ryan Kessler that we didn't have a proper plan B? I don't know that that's what happened, but it seems like that's what happened.
It seems a little bit like there was maybe an overcorrection for last year for getting Morrow and Iginla. like maybe we didn't want a scenario like that where, you know, maybe you did too much. But for me, it's like I'm not as concerned about the Kessler thing because I kind of thought that was a mistake anyway, although it would have been nice to get Sutter out of here. I'm more like what sort of just what made me feel a little weird watching the trades come in is that the prices weren't very high for some of the people that it seems like the Pens reasonably could have been in on. Like Dustin Penner for a 4th-round pick to Washington. Would he not have been worth a 3rd-round pick to us?
There's no question. I mean, I don't mean to suggest that I wish we were in on Van Eck or Marion Gaborik or anybody like that. I want guys that are going to fill out the lineup.
Dustin Penner been playing with Getzlaf and Perry all year. I mean, he could fit in with Crosby and Kunitz on the right side.
Well, I don't know that he would have been the right fit on Crosby's wing. Like, he's a big guy. I don't know that he necessarily keeps up with Kunitz and Crosby, but, man, certainly on the 3rd line, that's a huge upgrade.
Right.
Or maybe with Malcolm.
It just seemed like that's the one trade to me that strikes me as odd. That, like, he's going for just the 4th-round pick, and then these other guys who are also rentals are going for a lot more. And Penner's, you know, if you look at it from the owner's perspective, all right, like how much do I have to cut a check for? He's only $2 million versus, you know, some of these other guys that make more, like Alice Hemsky. That's one guy I'm not disappointed that we didn't get.
Me either.
Because the guy has 9 goals this year. I've never understood the fascination with him. These guys go up to Edmonton, they lose 60 games every year, and everyone keeps talking about how talented they are. And then I ask myself, why are you losing 60 games every year?
Yeah, if you're focused on acquiring the super talented, hugely underachieving, aging winger with 9 goals, you're focusing on the wrong thing, in my view. I have no problem with not making this trade. And as far as Penner goes, it's difficult to say that, you know, all things are equal with respect to a move like that. It's not necessarily like, you know, Anaheim made him available equally to all GMs and said, you know, highest bidder gets it. We don't know that that's what happened. I'm sure favors get done in the NHL like in any other business. You know, maybe McPhee, for whatever reason, had an inside track on Penner, and I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but it seems bizarre to me. It seems like he should have drawn more than a 4th-round draft pick.
Yeah, maybe there's some like deal where, you know, the Caps trade someone's rights before they're about to be an unrestricted free agent to Anaheim or something like that in the offseason. I don't know. That's sort of the one that jumped out to me because, like, why wouldn't they hold on to him and put him up for more?
Yeah, that seems very strange. Well, I think the Ducks were maneuvering to make room for a bigger move that never happened. But, you know, still weird.
Yeah.
Sure should have been all over that if you knew Penner was available.
Yeah. And I mean, we don't know that he wasn't, but what about the big move of the day? Marty St. Louis forcing himself out of Tampa into New York for the Rangers. For Callahan. A second and a first.
This is one situation where I think the conventional wisdom is right on. I mean, Marty St. Louis just seems like a huge baby. All we know is that he wasn't happy being left off the Canadian Olympic team initially anyway, and we don't know anything else other than he's been in Tampa for 14 years and he's, you know, a civic icon, et cetera, et cetera. So all you're left with is that he's being a huge baby.
Yeah, I usually find a way to take sort of a counter angle to what the masses are saying, but I have none for St. Louis. If everything that's being said is true, he does come across like the biggest baby ever. Like holding personal, like taking out his personal problem with Yzerman, which he shouldn't even have a problem with him, and then taking it out on his own teammates.
It's very bizarre, and Tampa's a really good team. So I just don't get that. You were telling me today that people in New York were saying that they were upset about that trade, about losing Callahan. Did
I say that?
I think you did.
I was probably being sarcastic because, you know, who's gonna replace that leadership?
Yeah, because I think actually it was a pretty good move, all things considered, for Yzerman considering St. Louis said he would only go to the Rangers, and Yzerman potentially get two number ones out of that?
Yeah, and I mean, consider the difference between that and like, I guess St. Louis had another year in his deal left, has another year in his contract, but like,
yeah, but he's 38 years old.
Yeah, the Rangers are well known to have like no prospects in their system. I think they have a very bad system.
Would you say the best deal of the day was Montreal getting Vanek for possibly just a prospect?
Well, they gave a pick too. Oh, but I guess if they don't make
I think it's conditional.
Yeah, but if they don't make the playoffs, then it's not a good trade. It's one of the if they don't make the playoffs, they don't have to give up a pick. But then if they don't make the playoffs, then it was a really disappointing trade.
So if they make the playoffs, they have to give up, a second?
I believe, yeah.
It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it's not a bad deal for them.
He's exactly what they need. They don't have a big time scorer like that.
No, but with those guys, it's hit or miss. Like streaky players, you give them 20 games, maybe. Like James Neal had a terrible first 20 games with the Pens.
Yeah.
And at any given moment, I mean, he's too good of a player now to go 20 games, but like Vanek at this stage of his career, he could go 20 games and do not much, have 3 or 4 goals.
Yeah, I suppose. What do you think about the return for Matt Moulson, who's another guy on the Penguins' radar? I don't really know about the asset that changed hands there that went to Buffalo.
Torrey Mitchell?
Yeah, I don't know.
It sounds like a female vocalist. Like Torrey Mitchell performing next at the Grammys.
Right.
So how can you get that excited about that?
Yeah, I guess you can't. He's a good player, though. It's a good pickup for Minnesota.
Yeah, look, a lot of teams seem like they improved. Well, listen, let's. We're gonna call in DJ after one. I told him we call him at 9:20, so we'll bring him in.
Okay.
We can keep going on the deadline. He's a Pens fan who lives in Philly, so the Pens have some games coming up with the Flyers. It sort of seems like the Flyers have been off the radar a little bit this year. We haven't played them in forever. Let me patch him in. Hang on a sec.
I think we have back-to-back games coming up against the Flyers. Home and home.
Oh, whoops. I did that wrong. Hang on. All right. For those still listening, I think I screwed this up. So we're just going to have to give it one more second. I got to get them both back on the line. Bear with us for a moment. In the background, the Flyers are beating the Caps, which is something it sort of makes me happy, but also disappointing because it means the Flyers are winning. Hang on. You there?
I'm here.
Yeah, I screwed that up. That's my bad. Give me a sec to bring them on. Hold on. You can say something because we're live. People are going to be like, "What is going on with these guys? They're terrible."
Oh, we're not editing this.
No, we're live. This is terrible. You gotta help me out and fill the dead air.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize it. Anyway, I was starting to say that I think we have home and home coming up with the Flyers, and I think we also have one with the Capitals.
Yeah, back-to-back home and homes. It's going to be intense. That's for sure.
Did you just welcome in DJ F1? Where is it?
He's not in yet.
I invited him. Hearing from DJ F1.
Yeah, we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait patiently. You see the Flyers are up 3-0 now on the Caps. You're not watching, or is it on in the background?
Yeah, I have it on. I heard somebody.
There he is. DJ Apt One is with us.
Hey, boys.
Hey, we had a little bit of a dead air situation before you came on, just for like 5 seconds. Not my fault, but it's because Artistry didn't speak through the dead air. It was my fault before that I hung up on him. So
DJ Apt One, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. You guys need to fire your producer. I think that's the answer.
We played your intro.
Oh, excellent.
Now, people are going to get fired up, but we're already getting emails and tweets about it. People are very fired up. And that's not true, but I'm sure that.
Have you guys ever seen? You guys ever seen those old commercials when they first rolled out the Penguins Boys of Winter theme?
Yeah.
Oh man, I watched one of those when I was putting that thing together, and it's terrible. The Penguins from the early 80s were not only poor hockey players, Lemieux accepted, they were also poor actors. And they really didn't come off very well from that.
Yeah, we should do a post about those old commercials, but I'll tell you, I've been whistling the Boys of Winter theme since like 1983. You know, there's something about it, you know?
It's the sound of hockey.
It's timeless.
Before you get artistry sucked down the wormhole that is the early 80s Penguins hockey, which you will talk about for the remainder of the night, you're a Penguins fan. You're from Pittsburgh, but you're in Philly. What is your level, like, what is it like following the Penguins being in Philadelphia?
Well, it works kind of on two levels. I've been playing men's league hockey in the Philly area for over a decade now, and people who know the game, like, you know, they hate the Penguins with every fiber of their being, but they can, you know, talk to you about hockey in a little more of an objective, dispassionate way. But the more casual fans are borderline sociopaths when you start talking about the Penguins.
In what way? They're just all over Crosby? I mean, how much of their hatred is focused just on Crosby?
A significant amount of it. I went to a Pens Flyers game early this year, may have been November or something, and was wearing my Pens hat, and a guy on the subway wearing a shirt that said, "I hate Sidney Crosby" in all capital letters, just yelling at me on the train. So eventually I asked him to come over and get his picture taken with me and sort of cut the tension a little bit. But they're all over Crosby.
You were at Game 3 of the series that shall not be spoken of a few years ago.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? Because I actually was I think I was in an airport. I was in an airport in San Juan, Puerto Rico, listening to that game from Mike Lang on my phone. And needless to say, I didn't watch the DVR of the game when I got back. What was that like being there?
Oh, it was tough because on the one hand, you know, it's kind of devastating to watch your team get, you know, really demolished and have the epic meltdown in another team's building, and, you know, it's really loud and they're all over your guys. But the other thing was that it was just it was a dirty game, and the Penguins unraveled, and there were all these hits that resulted in suspensions. I think Neal and Aaron Asham, I believe, both got suspended. So it didn't. I was with one of my buddies from I play for the Yards Brewery hockey team. My buddy has seats on about 10 rows off the ice, and he's a pretty big guy. And I knew if somebody came after me, you know, he'd throw down with me. But you know, there were guys trying to fight me, stuff like that. It was pretty nuts. So the informed fans they realize that I'm like them, but for the other guy. I had an 11-game ticket package a couple years ago, and the people I sat in my section with, you know, we could talk hockey and they respected it. But the guys are yelling, hit him, shoot it, all game. They're a little dangerous in Philadelphia.
I really admire you for being able to withstand that. I feel like I sort of crossed the threshold. I don't even think I could deal with it anymore. Like, at what point are you in a phase of life where you just can't deal with that? You can't just show up with your Penguins gear in Philadelphia. I don't know that I could do it anymore.
I mean, I'm married. I don't have any kids, but, you know, once I have kids and I have a little more on the line in terms of protecting my physical safety and well-being, you know, it could change.
Yeah, right now you just have a wife. Who cares if you get beat up, you know?
I mean, she lets me go out and play hockey, and she takes me to go get x-rays on my feet whenever I get hit with shots. So, I mean, you know, she can tolerate my idiocy for the time being.
Was that the game? Was Game 3 the game when that was the Letang-Timonen fight when he shushed the crowd? We were losing like 8-2. Was that game?
There were so many fights in that game. I think there were like 110 penalty minutes. Crosby,
Giroux was that game.
Wiped Giroux's glove away.
Is that where Neal cross-checked somebody in the head, and
Ashton threw that elbow? Or maybe Asham's elbow might have even been earlier. I don't know.
That was in that game, and also Neil devastated somebody on a charging. It was like interference or charging. Take your pick. Just like open ice, full stride, left his feet. It was bad.
All right.
One thing
go ahead.
In Philadelphia that they didn't end up. I've never been a part of, but sometimes the security, if there's a big fight, they'll take you out of the stands. They'll take you to the security office and they'll say, you need to put on this orange T-shirt or we cannot guarantee your safety, which I would never do. I would just leave.
That's funny.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So what did you think about the deals today, DJ App One? Were you satisfied? Were you left with a little bit of emptiness inside of you?
I didn't have a lot of expectations for this trade deadline, really. I mean, we kind of went whole hog last year, and that didn't really work out. And I mean, it's underwhelming, but I didn't think Kessler was really necessarily the best move for the Penguins anyway. So it didn't particularly bother me that they didn't get him. I mean, they can't really. They need depth scoring, and there weren't a lot of really dynamite career third line players around. You can't really get other teams' first liners and put them on your third line. They're not going to take well to that, especially these guys with no trade clauses and so on.
Well, if you're a career great third liner, chances are you want to be a second liner somewhere. We were talking before you came on that it is a little disappointing, if only because the Pens waited a while to do anything, but then when they did stuff, it was kind of underwhelming players. Although I think they're both solid players and obvious upgrades. My biggest thing I wanted the Pens to get was somebody who's signed into next season, and that's why a guy like a Chris Stewart would have been so appealing to me. But we'll live with Brandon Sutter fighting for his third line center spot. Maybe the competition will serve him well. How do you feel about Sutter? He's a real target of our venom here.
Flat Stanley?
Yeah, Flat Stanley.
Such a good nickname. Do you guys know who Flat Stanley is?
I had to look it up. He's like
my son has Flat Stanley books.
He apparently there was some big public educational campaign in Canada, so all the Canadian players know who Flat Stanley is. But I had to look it up. Your kid reads Flat Stanley?
Yeah, Flat Stanley is it's quite literal. A bulletin board fell on a young boy, fictional child, and flattened him. And he's like an inch thick. And he walks around, and he's fine. You could put him in the mail. He goes on adventures. Flat Stanley.
Well, that actually is then a very apt description of Sutter's game. You just push him, put him wherever you want to put him. He's very easy to move off the puck.
He flies away if there's a strong gust of wind. Flat Stanley, you can fly him like a kite. It's actually a perfect nickname. Who came up with this nickname?
I'm surprised that his teammates were able to come up with a metaphor that has that's that perceptive as to his game.
Yeah. The only thing that would have been more appropriate would have been Flaccid Stanley. Given the DJ App One, do you watch The Bachelor?
No, I don't. And I'm mystified as to why you guys do. I don't know. I can't get into it.
Do you want us to talk to you about it and tell you what's happening this season?
I'm sure it'll all be way over my head. I know it's very highbrow entertainment.
You told me before you had a story about playing hockey with an ex-NHL player. I know, and I think Artistry will appreciate this because it's right in the wheelhouse of when he grew up following hockey. He'll know the player very well.
Yeah, I was playing, this must have been 2002 or something like that, 3. I'm playing in a men's league in Philadelphia, and I was on this abysmal team where there were 3 or 4 guys on the team that were decent, and then they'd just given us all these instructional level players that were terrible. It's a C league. And the guy from the rink manager comes in. He says, "Does anybody need a guy?" I said, "Yeah, we're a little short tonight." So he says, "All right, I'll tell my buddy to come over." The door opens. Michel Petit walks in. Scores 5 goals in the first period, like snapshots from outside the blue line, just picking the top corner, and then just, takes off, says, "See you guys," and that was it.
He played one period?
And we lost.
You lost. Michel Petit, that is in my wheelhouse, and a guy from when I was growing up. I feel like he might have been on one of Lemieux's Sports Illustrated covers, like getting burned by Lemieux.
Sounds probable.
Possible?
Well, I'm looking him up right now. So he was on the Canucks, the Rangers, the Nordiques, the Maple Leafs, the Flames, the Kings, the Lightning, the Oilers, the Flyers, then the Coyotes.
Right. It would have been when he was with the Rangers.
That's a lot of teams. So that would have been 87 through 89.
What was his season high penalty minutes? Approaching 300?
223 with the Rangers.
Yeah, I feel like Lemieux might have been like ignoring a check from Michel Petit on a Sports Illustrated cover. Somebody's going to have to fact check that.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It was crazy playing with him because, you guys have played, and you've probably played with some particularly high-level guys. I know that there's a really, really strong player on Finesse's high school teams. I mean, not NHL caliber, but there's some of these guys. Michel Petit was a goon in the NHL, but he was the Mario Lemieux of every league he was in up until probably juniors. So those guys have like insane scoring touch, but they're just dunces in the NHL.
He was a playmaker with the St. Jean Beavers in 1982-83 at 86 points in 62 games.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah. So, all right, DJ App One, how can our substantial audience find you if they want to listen to your music? Because the theme song, and we'll play it again when we close out, is just tremendous.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, people can find me at djapt1.com. That's DJAPTONE. And my SoundCloud page and my Twitter handle, the same handle. Yeah, I'm out there. I'm on the internet.
All right, before you go, though, what's your thought on Pens this year? How far do they get in the playoffs?
Oh, man. I mean, the Bruins are kind of built for the playoffs. I'm not particularly worried about anybody in the East, but A, we're going to go as far as Fleury can take us, which who knows. But B, I mean, the Bruins are going to be a tough out. They were almost impossible for us to beat last year. But the thing, and I don't think we stack up well against any of the Western Conference teams who make the finals. However, we make the final. We could get through the East. If we make the finals, who knows? But I don't have high hopes.
If you make the finals, it means that Fleury is playing well. So I wouldn't be worried about him in the finals if he got there. It's getting there that would be the problem.
Right. Well, I think the Western teams are they're really heavy. All the top teams in the West are heavy, physical. The Blackhawks have a lot of scoring, a lot of depth. I don't really see us taking 4 or 7 from any of the top teams in the West.
Yeah, it's tough to imagine. Although, just to put things in perspective, like listen to the three of us, we sound so disappointed at the notion. If we make the finals, we're in for a really rough ride. Like at least it's a realistic goal for us to make the finals, right?
Yeah, I mean, back to this relates to our disappointment about the trade deadline. Sidney Crosby could play his last game any day. He gets hit in the head, he's done. So the window is very, very could be smaller than anybody thinks, and that's why trade deadline like this is a little disappointing. So you got 2 transcendent talents on the same team at once. I feel like they got to throw the kitchen sink at it every year until there's nothing left because you may not get another shot.
That's a good point.
Well said. All right, DJ App One, we're going to drop you out and wrap up. But thank you for coming on, and we'll give people a heads up on how to find you.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me, guys.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, we hope you'll come back. Thanks, man.
Absolutely.
Oh, you got to close. You still there?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
He's still there.
No,
Okay.
you know what? He made a really good point there at the end, I thought. We don't know how long the prime's going to be. That's why it's disappointing if you like the idea that this was some sort of transition year that Colligan was talking about. It wouldn't fly with me.
Say that one more time. I was just closing out DJF1.
Like if you considered this a transition year, like Colligan was talking about,
yeah,
then that would have been unacceptable. You know, if the Penguins had done less than they did, that would have been very unacceptable.
Absolutely.
So I think they did. I think we did the minimum. But it's not bad.
I agree. I agree with him that you have to position yourself. You have to give yourself a chance every year that Crosby and Malkin are in the line.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about? What do you think about the Flyers getting Andrew McDonald? Do you care?
I don't really care. I just think the Flyers are a team that, you know, their eyes get really big whenever somebody with name recognition comes available and they have the opportunity to get them. They're in on everybody, if you believe the buzz. They're virtually any named player the Flyers are in on. Usually they hoard defensemen that are overpaid and generally over the hill or past their prime. McDonald is an exception. I think his best years are probably ahead of him, but their problem is I think he's a UFA, right?
Yeah.
He's making peanuts now, so they're going to have to throw a ton of money at him to keep him. And it's just like a revolving door of defensemen in Philadelphia.
You know what was an odd trade for me was the Devils getting Tuomo Ruutu for Loktionov and a third-round pick.
Very strange trade. You know,
because like Tuomo Ruutu, you know, all due respect to Yarko, Tuomo Ruutu is not very good anymore. It makes $4.5 million too.
Yeah, I mean, he was a really solid player for a number of years, but I agree. I don't think he's really the same player that he was, and his contract is terrible.
He's got 16 points in 57 games.
This is what Lou Lamoriello does now, apparently. He did the same thing with Ryan Flo in the offseason. He signed him to a ridiculous contract after he'd scored 3 goals last year, some bizarrely low number. So I'm not sure what that's all about in New Jersey.
Yeah. I think it's just like beware the guy who had a 25-goal season 7 years ago.
Yeah.
That's what I would say, like, is one of the trade deadline things. And maybe Stempniak falls into that, but we were sort of in a little more desperate straits. And we didn't give up, like, Loktionov, who's a decent player.
One exception that I would say I would make to the don't trade for the really old guy rule is I wouldn't have minded, and I don't know if this was a possibility, but I wouldn't have minded bringing in Marty Brodeur. I know that his numbers are terrible this year, and they seem to suggest he's completely washed up. But I think we're going to win or lose with Fleury this year. And, you know, maybe having a guy like that who I think everybody understands has a good relationship with Fleury to try to be in his ear and you know, bolster his confidence a little bit would have been a good thing if you could have gotten him for a draft pick.
You know, I thought that at a time, but then the more I thought about it, I actually don't think it would be a good idea because it would be too the drama would be too high. If Fleury let in a bat, like any struggle at all, you'd have to put Brodeur in. He's too high profile to not. So like Fleury wouldn't have any opportunity to dig himself out of a hole. And now whether Fleury is capable of doing that is a wide open question, and it's very possible the answer to that is no. But like Fleury goes down 2-0 in the first game of the playoffs, how do you not bring Brodeur in? And then once you do that, isn't it over for Fleury?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you have to do it. You can just say you're not going to do it. If Brodeur's on board, then.
But then why would you pay Brodeur all that money?
Well, right? How much does he get?
Well, I know it's not my money.
Yeah.
I wouldn't pay him my money.
Does his contract go beyond this year?
No.
So what's the big deal? You're really not paying him.
It would have been a little bit of high drama. I think maybe earlier in the year if if we knew Vokun wasn't coming back. I think if Vokun's coming back, then there's no reason for Brodeur.
Can you imagine how positive that locker room would be with Brodeur and Jeff Zakoff? It would be unbelievable.
It's a lot of leadership. I would be fine. I think one thing to consider is if Vokun becomes healthy, I think maybe you just skate Zakoff as a seventh defenseman.
You got to have Zakoff in the lineup.
You got to have that personality in the room. And if he's not playing, if he's not dressed that night, no one's going to take him seriously. So you put him as a defenseman. Could he be worse than like a Derek Englund? Could he be worse than Tanner Glass and Taylor Pyatt?
Is Jeff Zakoff going to put himself in front of 5 Shea Weber slap shots? Maybe.
That was impressive. That was good stuff by Glass. You know, the only difference from that and Gregory Campbell is that Tanner Glass didn't fake a broken leg afterwards.
That's exactly right. Well, we got 2 very, very tough games coming up on Thursday and Friday in San Jose and then in Anaheim. It's going to be pretty telling, I think, where we're headed in the stretch run here.
Yeah, the schedule coming up is crazy. San Jose, Anaheim, then back-to-back, or then a home-and-home against the Caps, and then a home-and-home against the Flyers.
Yeah. So. It would be amazing if we can hold on and take the number 1 seed. I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make in the long run, but it's going to be a real test for the team.
Yeah, you want that home ice advantage. I don't know. I'm more optimistic today than I was yesterday. Getting 2 reasonable forwards, hopefully get Pyatt and Kobasu out of the lineup. That's a start. You know, maybe there's something there.
It's a start, but you know what, man? I think the season is going to come down to Bo Bennett and Paul Martin coming back strong. Because if they don't, I just don't know that we have the horses. If they do, I think that we have a pretty good lineup, and I like our chances of coming out of this.
Yeah, you could be right. The season is in the hands of Bo Bennett. And Bo Bennett's hands are usually broken, so maybe it's not a good sign.
That's a frightening prospect. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Until next time, GTOG.